Classic Hollywood did not just create stars. It created carefully crafted public images. For millions of fans, these men represented charm, confidence, success, and the perfect version of stardom. But behind the premieres, magazine covers, and studio publicity, there were often private struggles, unanswered questions, and lives that remained largely unseen. In this video, we'll explore 7 legendary Hollywood figures whose personal stories became the subject of fascination long after the cameras stopped rolling. Before we begin, comment below where you're watching from and let's uncover the history behind the legends. Actor 1 Rock Hudson. By the 1950s, he had become one of Hollywood's most recognizable leading men. Tall, handsome, and effortlessly charismatic, he represented the kind of confidence studios loved to sell. Films such as Magnificent Obsession, Giant, and Pillow Talk helped transform him into a global star. To audiences, he appeared to have everything: fame, success, and a place among Hollywood's elite. But as with many stars of his era, the public image was only part of the story. Behind the carefully managed publicity campaigns was a life shaped by expectations that extended far beyond acting. During the height of the studio system, personal privacy was often treated as a business matter. Careers could be influenced by rumors, public perception, and the image that studios believed audiences wanted to see. For major stars, maintaining that image was often considered essential. Over time, biographers, journalists, and historians revisited Hudson's life, examining the gap between public persona and private reality. Their work helped reveal the pressures many performers faced while navigating an industry that rewarded conformity and discouraged anything that challenged established expectations. His story gradually became part of a larger conversation about identity, privacy, and the hidden costs of fame. When Rock Hudson passed away in 1985, public reaction extended far beyond Hollywood. He was remembered not only as a movie star, but also as a figure whose life helped spark broader discussions about acceptance, understanding, and the human side of celebrity. The legend remained powerful, but the man behind it proved far more complex. And while Hudson's story became one of Hollywood's most discussed chapters, the next star chose a very different path through the same world of silence and expectation. Actor 2 Tab Hunter. Few stars embodied the image of youthful American optimism more completely. During the 1950s, he became one of Hollywood's most popular young actors, appearing in films such as Battle Cry, Damn Yankees, and several television productions that expanded his fame. With his bright smile, athletic appearance, and approachable charm, he quickly became a favorite among moviegoers. Fan magazines celebrated him, studios promoted him heavily, and his popularity seemed to grow with every new release, yet fame in that era often came with conditions. Hollywood was still operating within a culture where public image could be as important as talent itself. Studios carefully managed how stars were presented to audiences, shaping narratives that fit the expectations of the time. For rising actors, maintaining a marketable image was frequently considered part of the job. The result was a world where personal lives were often kept separate from public identities. As the years passed, Hunter spoke more openly about experiences that many performers of his generation rarely discussed publicly. His later reflections offered a valuable perspective on what it meant to build a career while navigating an industry driven by image, publicity, and public perception. Historians and entertainment writers would later view his story as an important example of how Hollywood's golden age sometimes demanded silence where honesty might have carried professional risks. Unlike many figures from that period, Hunter eventually had the opportunity to reflect on his own journey in his own words. That gave his story a different quality, less mystery, perhaps, but no less significance. When he passed away in 2018, he was remembered not only for his films and television work, but also for the insight he provided into an era that often asked stars to reveal only part of themselves. And while Hunter's story offered rare clarity, the next figure left behind far more questions than answers. Actor 3 Sal Mineo. Some Hollywood stars spend years climbing toward fame. Sal Mineo seemed to arrive almost overnight. In the 1950s, he emerged as one of the most recognizable young actors in America, earning acclaim for performances in Rebel Without a Cause, Exodus, and other major productions. His talent was undeniable, but it was his intensity that audiences remembered most. He brought vulnerability, emotion, and complexity to characters at a time when many young actors were expected to fit simpler molds. As his popularity grew, so did the attention surrounding every aspect of his life. Hollywood was changing, but many of the pressures that shaped earlier generations of performers still remained. Public image continued to influence careers, and personal matters were often treated with caution. For actors who did not easily fit traditional expectations, navigating fame could become a delicate balancing act between visibility and privacy. Over the decades, biographers and film historians revisited Minneo's life and career, viewing him as part of a broader story about changing attitudes within the entertainment industry. His work challenged assumptions, and his presence on screen often carried a depth that set him apart from many of his contemporaries. While discussions about his private life continued long after his rise to fame, his artistic achievements remained at the center of his legacy. Tragically, Minneo's life was cut short in 1976 when he was killed in Los Angeles at the age of 37. The loss shocked many who believed he still had much more to contribute as both an actor and creative artist. Today, he is remembered not only for the roles that made him famous, but also for the lasting impact he left on Hollywood history. Yet while Minneo's story ended too soon, the next actor on our list spent decades carefully navigating the spotlight, leaving behind a very different kind of legacy. Actor Dirk Bogarde. Unlike many stars who chased attention, Dirk Bogarde often seemed to move in the opposite direction. By the 1950s, he had become one of Britain's most successful actors, earning widespread recognition through films that showcased both his talent and remarkable screen presence. Audiences admired his intelligence, sophistication, and ability to bring depth to complex characters. As his career expanded, he became far more than a traditional leading man. He became a performer associated with seriousness, artistry, and quiet intensity, yet Bogarde's career unfolded during a period when public expectations often placed strict limits on how celebrities presented themselves. The entertainment industry valued carefully managed images, and many actors learned that privacy could be just as important as publicity. For some, silence became a professional strategy. For others, it became a lifelong habit. Bogarde developed a reputation for being thoughtful, reserved, and highly protective of his personal world, qualities that only increased public curiosity over time. Later biographers and historians examined his life as part of a larger conversation about fame, identity, and the pressures faced by performers in the mid-20th century. What makes his story particularly fascinating is that his legacy rests not on scandal or sensational headlines, but on restraint. He allowed his work to speak louder than speculation, and his performances often revealed more than interviews ever did. As the decades passed, Bogarde earned respect not only as an actor but also as a writer and cultural figure. When he died in 1999, he left behind a body of work admired for its intelligence and emotional depth. The public remembered the accomplished artist. History remembered something more complicated, a man who carefully controlled what the world was allowed to see. Actor number 5 John Gielgud. Long before modern celebrity culture, John Gielgud had already become a legend. Widely regarded as one of the greatest stage actors of the 20th century, he built a reputation on extraordinary talent, commanding performances, and a voice that audiences could recognize instantly. His success extended beyond the theater into film and television, where appearances in productions such as Arthur introduced him to new generations of viewers. Few performers earned as much respect from both critics and fellow actors, but admiration did not shield anyone from the realities of the era in which they lived. Throughout much of the 20th century, public figures were expected to maintain carefully controlled personal lives. For actors, reputation could influence opportunities just as much as ability. The result was a culture where privacy was often guarded with exceptional care, particularly when personal matters risked becoming public discussion. Gielgud's life has since been examined by historians and biographers who viewed his experiences within the broader social attitudes of his time. Rather than defining his legacy through controversy, many writers focus on his resilience, professionalism, and dedication to his craft. He continued performing for decades, adapting to changing audiences while remaining one of the most respected figures in British entertainment. what makes his story remarkable is not mystery alone, but endurance. He witnessed enormous cultural changes during a career that lasted more than half a century, surviving trends, industry shifts, and evolving public expectations. When Gielgud passed away in 2000 at the age of 96, he was remembered as a towering figure of stage and screen. Yet behind the honors and achievements was a life shaped by a very different world from the one audiences know today. Actor 6 Charles Laughton. Some stars were remembered for glamour, others for charm. Charles Laughton was remembered for presence. By the 1930s and 1940s, he had established himself as one of the most respected actors in the world, delivering unforgettable performances in films such as The Private Life of Henry VIII, Mutiny on the Bounty, and Witness for the Prosecution. He possessed a unique screen presence that could be commanding, intimidating, and deeply human all at once. Audiences never confused him with a conventional leading man. His talent made him something far rarer, yet even extraordinary success could not completely free a performer from the expectations of the era. Hollywood and the broader entertainment world often rewarded carefully managed public images. For many public figures, personal privacy became a necessity rather than a choice. Careers were built not only on performances, but also on how effectively stars navigated the boundaries between public admiration and private reality. Over time, historians, memoirists, and film scholars revisited Laughton's life, exploring the complexities that existed behind his celebrated career. Their work placed him within a larger story about fame, identity, and the pressures faced by performers during the 20th century. What stands out is not simply speculation or rumor, but the contrast between public achievement and private restraint. Like many figures of his generation, he lived in a world where certain subjects were rarely discussed openly. When Charles Laughton died in 1962, he left behind a legacy defined by artistic excellence and unforgettable performances. Decades later, that legacy remains secure. Yet modern audiences often see something more than a brilliant actor. They see a man whose life reflected the complicated realities hidden behind Hollywood's golden image. Actor 7 Farley Granger. Some Hollywood stars became famous through larger-than-life personalities. Farley Granger earned recognition through something quieter. During the 1940s and 1950s, he appeared in major productions such as Rope, Strangers on a Train, and They Live by Night, working with some of the most respected filmmakers of his generation. Audiences were drawn to his natural screen presence, youthful charm, and ability to portray characters filled with uncertainty and emotional depth. He stood apart from many traditional leading men of the era, yet Hollywood's golden age was built on more than talent alone. Studios carefully cultivated public images, and actors often found themselves balancing personal privacy with professional expectations. For many performers, maintaining that balance required caution. Careers could be influenced by publicity, audience perception, and the social attitudes of the time. In such an environment, what remained unspoken could sometimes become just as important as what appeared on screen. Unlike many stars of his generation, Granger later reflected openly on aspects of his life and experiences. His memoir provided historians and film enthusiasts with valuable insight into a period when personal matters were often discussed only behind closed doors. Those reflections helped place his story within a broader history of Hollywood, one shaped by image management, changing cultural expectations, and the complex realities faced by public figures. When Farley Granger passed away in 2011, he left behind a legacy defined by strong performances and artistic integrity. His films continue to be studied and appreciated by classic cinema audiences around the world. Yet his story also serves as a reminder that behind every carefully crafted Hollywood image was a real person navigating a world far more complicated than the one audiences saw. And with that, our journey through these hidden chapters of classic Hollywood history comes to an end.